Well, welcome YouTube friends and family to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. First, before I start the video, it's actually Saturday here. This is probably going to be filmed over a couple of days. You won't see it until Tuesday. But I just want to let everyone who was affected by the tornadoes in Arkansas, Illinois, and especially in Western Kentucky, that my thoughts and prayers are with you. So, that said, what are we going to do today? Well, it is time to start the Christmas baking. So let me grab a couple things here. So one of my favorite things to do is to peruse all my vintage cookbooks and find recipes of things that I want to make. And sometimes I end up going to like the internet for a more modern version if it's just not something that I can find in a vintage style recipe. So one of the cookbooks that I have never shared with you is Cooking Magic, and it is step-by-step cookbooks from the Culinary Art Institute. And in this particular, there's 2 volumes. I only have 1 volume. It's kind of hard to hold here. It has the Holiday Cookbook. And I believe these are all in the late 50s. Let's see if I can find. Yeah, it does not look up. 1957. So in this book, I was able to find a different cookie press recipe that uses butter instead of shortening. So I want to try that. I also have my Better Homes and Gardens Holiday Cookbook for special occasions. And this actually goes through all sorts of holidays. This is from 1959. So let me see here. Page 67. I think I lost mine. So, guys, look at these beautiful fudges. So I'm not a chocolate fan, but they have the old-fashioned brown sugar fudge. So that is on my list of things I would like to do over the next couple days. And I don't know whether I'll bring you all of these recipes or not. And then in my Better Homes and Gardens new cookbook, which is a little newer, let me see if I can find a date for you. I believe it's 60s. Goodness, this is not in the best of shape. Oh, I'm way off. It's 53. So they have a lot of candies and cookies, and they have a sour cream date cookie. And if you remember from my Azure Standard haul, sorry guys, I should have had these marked. Here is the recipe for sour cream date dreams. So I thought I would give that a try as well. So my list has gotten pretty long. I don't know whether I'll get to all of these. My son has ordered no-bake cookies. Those will be done right at like Christmas Eve. The spritz cookies with the butter. I would like to make some peanut butter fudge. I'm going to make triple ginger cookies, and that's what we're going to start with. The brown sugar fudge, the sour cream date dream cookies, and perhaps a refrigerator cookie 4 ways, that is vanilla and chocolate. So let me turn you around here, bring you over to the mixer. And guys, I apologize about the lighting. I have these little tap lights, maybe that'll make it better. Excuse me. Oh my gosh, guys, excuse me. I didn't know I was going to do that. Today, it's Saturday. It is, well, it was 63 this morning, and it's going to drop like a stone all day. We have been under a tornado watch that has expired. Now we're under a high wind warning. So not the best of days, but a great day to bake cookies. So the first recipe I'm going to be doing is from All Recipes. I will link it below, not my original recipe. And it's called Triple the Ginger Cookies. And I loved this. These are a real pain in the butt to make, but they are worth it. The best ginger cookies I have ever eaten. And I swear that's what it says. So we're going to make the dough, then we are going to chill it and go on to our second recipe. So in my KitchenAid mixer, I have 3/4 cup or a stick and a half of butter. And I am going to cream that with 1 cup of brown sugar. And you probably shouldn't do that while the mixer's turning, but I did, didn't I? Let me grab a spatula. So my mother and I used to, in her younger years, make so much candy and cookies, and you know, it's kind of sad that I have to do it alone now, but I'll certainly take a big plate to Mom. And these are not necessarily things that we made previously. These are more the things that I actually like. We did do spritz cookies, we did fudge, we did Buckeyes, which are, some people call them chocolate peanut butter balls, which is my son's favorite. So yeah, I may just be making all sorts of things. I realized this morning, I thought, oh my word, it is 2 weeks till Christmas. And yeah, the only thing I'm really ready for is I've purchased everything for gifts. But guys, I haven't wrapped a single thing. I do have my Christmas skirt done. If you watched the video from Saturday, from today that was up. Okay, I have these very well creamed together. I'm going to add to that 1 egg. Tip you down just a little bit. And I'm probably going to have to shed this sweater, guys. I do not, normally I keep my heat at about 62. So, yeah, it's always a little nippy in here. So I automatically reached for a sweater this morning that I maybe don't need. So I'm curious, and you need to drop me a comment below. What kind of goodies are you making this year for Christmas? Because maybe I need to add it to my list. I like to take plates of cookies to the neighbors, and this is kind of humbling. When I had my kidney stone attack, the very first time, I did not know what it was. I had a little ambulance ride from the house, so I definitely want to take something up to our volunteer fire and rescue department as a thank you for being so kind to me and dealing with me. I may have said a couple bad words because that ambulance needed new shocks, just saying. All right, so I'm going to turn this up just for a moment. And I've shared before, I have a very large KitchenAid mixer. I love my KitchenAid. I do have a smaller one. However, it needs to be re-oiled, so I'm not using it. So when you don't have a lot in your bowl, sometimes you have to do a little bit more scraping, but it always comes together. So while that goes round and round, I am going to add a 1/4 cup of molasses. So I have my OXO. I'll leave a link in the description box to the mixer, to pretty much anything I use that is available on Amazon. And I love these because it has a dry side and a liquid side. So I dialed it back to 1/4 cup. And this is heavy. I'm going to be using my black strap unsulfured molasses. This is always messy, guys. I should have an apron on. Ah, perfect. I'll have to wash that. I do love my OXO cup. It just makes measuring these types of liquids so easy. You know, honey, peanut butter. And I just spray it with a little non-stick cooking spray before I start. So I'm going to pause you for a moment. I'm going to get this incorporated, then we'll talk about our dry ingredients. So once you have everything well creamed and incorporated, it should look like this. And we are going to begin to add our dry ingredients by hand. So what do I have in here? 2 1/4 cups all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons ground ginger, 2 teaspoons baking soda, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I am just going to add this a little bit of time. It says stir it with a wooden spoon. Yeah, I don't have one of those. Oh, something else I wanted to bring up, guys, before I forget. I guess there is some hanky-panky going on YouTube where people are stealing like your picture and creating a false channel that looks like it's of the same name, and then reaching out to subscribers or people that have commented asking for money. So let me tell you guys something. I will never, ever, ever ask you all for anything. I'm not going to ask you to buy crypto, anything like that. If you get something like that, trust me, it's not me. Please report it to me immediately if you see anything like that. Okay, back to the cookie making. And I want to thank all of you who commented already today, voting which vintage dress you want me to wear. I am wearing a true vintage today. This is probably late 50s, perhaps early 60s. Actual vintage dress. It was new old stock. In other words, it had the original tags, but it had never been worn. So I washed it up. It washed up beautifully. It is a wash and wear, which makes me think early 60s. One thing I will say, guys, is a lot of vintage clothing, true vintage, you need a slip. I haven't worn a slip since childhood, and I'm not exaggerating. I just, clothing today is either lined or it just doesn't need a slip. So thankfully, my mom had some extra ones that were too large for her, because that'd be the only way they'd fit me. So yeah, I was able to snag a couple vintage full slips from my mom. So don't overlook that if you're in the market for some vintage clothing. You know, putting the word out to people. A lot of people are like, my mom or my grandma or my aunt has a closet full of that stuff and she would never wear it, but she wouldn't get rid of it, So, wow, guys, this is going to be a challenge to get this all incorporated. And I think I'm going to stick it back on the mixer. I see why they say it's a pain in the butt to make, because I'm like, this is pretty straightforward, right? But let's pop it back on here and see if we can't get it better incorporated. And we'll be stirring in a tablespoon and a half of freshly minced ginger and half a cup of chopped crystallized ginger. So let me grab my beater. I'll get this incorporated. I'll bring you back to show you what the dough looks like. All right, guys, I agree that these are a pain in the behind. You need a very stiff spatula to scrape your bowl, because this batter is super sticky with the molasses, and I don't want to leave a lot of that goodness behind for sure. But what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap it up in a piece of plastic wrap. It just says cover and refrigerate 2 hours to overnight. So there you have our triple ginger cookies, and I'm going to pop this in the fridge, clean up my mess, wash my bowl. We'll go on to recipe number 2. So I apologize for having to voice over this portion of the video. I had music playing in the background. I didn't realize it. So I'm over at the stove, and we are going to make our date filling, which is half cup of water, half cup of sugar, and 1 pound of chopped dates. So I don't know what I'm just chatting away about here, but it's not as complicated as I'm making it look, that's for sure. So what you want to do is you want to cook this for 2 to 3 minutes until it thickens up. So you do want to dice those dates fairly finely so that they break down. And I am using the dates that I purchased from Azure Standard, and I will share they are absolutely delicious. You want to cook the filling ahead of time and then start cooling it, because it needs to be cool before we actually fill our dough and roll it up to cut into cookies. I guess I had a lot to say, guys. I apologize for having to voice over this, but I will get a copyright strike for the music. So it actually took me just a little bit longer than 3 minutes to really get it thick enough. But what you want is it to be sort of like a jelly or a paste. So coating your spoon or your spatula, whatever it is that you're using, that is a super important part of getting that filling to the right consistency. And then I just scraped it out onto a paper plate, and I actually popped it in the freezer just to kind of speed up that cooling process so that we could roll our dough and then get that into the refrigerator and get it chilled. So I'm bringing you over closer here so you can look down in and see the thickness that I'm talking about. And a pound of dates does make quite a bit of filling, but I used every bit of it and did not feel like I had too much. We will be adding some chopped walnuts, 1 cup, after this is fully cooled, but you don't want to add it while it's hot. And as you can see, the filling is getting thicker and thicker. And I have it on sort of a medium-high heat because I'm standing right at it. And I'm making sure that it doesn't scorch or stick to the bottom. So I'm showing you there that it's somewhat coating the spatula, but yet not quite thick enough. It still looked like a separation between the dates and the liquid portion. So we cook it a few minutes longer just to get to the exact right consistency. And let me tell you, this came out fabulous. I could eat it with a spoon. You can see by the steam, it's pretty hot and it's starting to get thicker here. You can really tell. I did not have any problems with it sticking to the pan, I can say that. And we're at the right thickness, and I'm removing it from the heat. Guys, I just realized that I'm talking away with my vintage record player cranking away in the background, so I probably will have to voice over that last segment. If I did, I apologize. So we're back over at the mixer. I have already creamed 1 stick of butter, or 1/2 cup, and a half cup each of white and brown sugar in the mixer bowl. So the next step is to add 1 egg and 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. So if you remember from my Azure Standard haul, I purchased some vanilla extract powder. Oh, guys, it just smells amazing. So I'm gonna add both vanilla extract and some of this vanilla extract powder. So again, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And when I'm baking, I always use pure vanilla. This is just Watkins brand, came from Walmart. I'm gonna add like a little less than a teaspoon. That was 3/4 of the vanilla extract powder because I want to try it, right? So I have already combined my dry ingredients. Turn that up just a bit. And the dry ingredients are 1 3/4 cup flour, 1/2 teaspoon of soda, baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I've mixed this in a separate bowl, just using my Danish whisk. Let's break down the bowl here because This is not a big volume, and again, it just has a tendency to want to stick to the bottom. That is the one drawback, I would say, to having a large KitchenAid mixer, but hopefully when my son's home for Christmas, he can help me get the other one repacked with grease. Okay, so let's let that really get going together here. Oh, smells so good. It's gonna be some good eats, guys. All right, I'm gonna turn it down, and we're going to begin adding our dry ingredients. And while I do that, I will share, I took my date mixture, put it on a paper plate, because it's nice and thick, and I popped it into the freezer to cool down quicker. Just scrape this down a little bit, and it is coming together nicely. It's a crumbly dough at this point, but I think it will all incorporate nicely. Can you imagine doing this by hand? I cannot. You certainly could. You just would have bigger muscles than I do, I think. You can see it's coming together as a dough. It's probably a little over the top. Okay. Just take a look. Oh, guys, this smells so good, like vanilla. Okay, I am going to call that good. So let me clear up the counter, get some of these appliances out of the way, check on our dates, and then we will begin assembling our date pinwheels. Our date nut filling looks amazing. I've resisted tasting. And what we have here on the counter, I've lightly floured my very clean counter, and we have our ball of dough, and I am going to attempt to cut this in half. I don't see why you couldn't just roll it out into one, but for sake of following the recipe, we're gonna do what it says. So what we're going to do is roll this out into a rectangle, longer than it is wide, obviously. And I probably need a little flour on this. On my 1950s rolling pin, and this was actually, wow, I need more flour, a gift from a former patient of mine, and I've used it for many years. I do have a modern one that my sweet next door neighbor purchased for me that I love and I do use as well. But since this is all about an old-fashioned Christmas, I thought I would use some old-fashioned equipment. Some modern, some old-fashioned. Okay, guys, I'm gonna guess that you need to flour the top too, because I'm making a mockery of this. Okay, really, really badly. So some of the more modern rolling pins won't stick like this. So this is like the worst effort ever to get a rectangle. Oh my goodness. Part of the fun though. You know, I love listening to old records, and just by the nature of what vinyl is, it's all old stuff. My dad was a huge fan of Floyd Kramer, who was a very talented pianist, played multiple instruments, and I was just speaking to my sister this morning, and we were both saying, because I wanted to know what happened to the vinyl, we don't know. It was really Christmas when that record started being played in our home. So I have the CD of it, but I don't have the vinyl. And I know the quality of sound is completely different on vinyl, but I love that. So yeah, if I was actually doing this, I think I would roll it all out at once, but I guess I am actually doing it. I'm just gonna follow the directions. Okay. So you do want to get a pretty good rectangle, because if we roll it up, you don't want it to be uneven. So I'm gonna like take some of this end and put right here where it's super thin. And always fails cut a rectangle because it's thicker at the top than it is at the bottom. So we're getting there. So I do very much enjoy cooking, and baking is my first love over, you know, savory cooking, we'll say. It was the first thing I learned to do, and y'all know I have a huge sweet tooth, huge. That is why I wear a size 18 in vintage clothing. But at any rate, yeah, there we go. Now that is not too shabby for a rectangle, right guys? And it says put half of this on here. So I'm just gonna use a spatula. Oh yeah, half is not too much. I thought that might be too much, but no, not at all. Oh guys, this just looks so delicious. And I may have to go in with some fingers here to get this spread really evenly, because it's super thick. So yes, I only left the dates in for like 10-15 minutes on a paper plate. It worked like a charm. It didn't freeze. It's still warm, but it's not hot anymore. So it's definitely doable. Okay. So you don't end up with a cookie with no filling. You do want to get this filling to the edges for sure. So I would just spread it out until you are satisfied. And the dough, I will tell you, is quite tender, so it's very easy to tear a hole in it. So don't be afraid to get in there with your fingers. Okay, I think that's pretty good, right? Let me rinse my hands here. And I really do love that this apron has an additional towel. So what we're going to aim to do is put this roll on this piece of wax paper and then twist the ends. So I'm gonna help it get started, and I'm just using a bench cutter. I will leave a link in the description box. This may be like epic fail, guys. Hope not. So far, so good. Oops, it's up there. But if this is on the inside of the pinwheel, I don't think it's really gonna matter. Wow, this one should have said, these are a pain in the butt to make, but super fun. Or super worth it, or whatever. Yeah, so I definitely got some holes appearing. So I might have gone a touch thin on my dough. To me, it looked like a 1/4 inch, but hey, I'm a nurse, and we estimate things. Okay. So I'm actually going to compress this a little bit so that the cookies will be just a touch bigger, and that will give me the ability to seal it up a little better. Okay, so there we have our log, and when we cut it, it will be pinwheel fashion. I'm just going to roll this nicely, twist the ends, and into the fridge we go. Get all this mess cleaned up. Stay tuned, more to come. So here is our baked cookie loveliness, about 3 dozen each. So let me turn the camera around and do a taste test for you. So it's finally time for the taste test. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I did not taste a bite of any of the cookies. And it was really hard. Because you always eat the ugly cookies, right? So first let's try our triple ginger cookies. And I baked these at 350. The recipe said 10 minutes. I needed to do 12 in my oven. Oh, and I put some sparkly sugar on it. Wow. Absolutely delicious. That candied ginger gives you just a burst of flavor in your mouth. Those would be really, really good after a rich meal to kind of cleanse your palate. Love, love, love. So let's try our cute date nut pinwheels. I know these will be my favorite. So good, you guys. Really can taste the dates. These I baked 400 for 12 to 13 minutes, depending on how thick my slices were. It said 400 for 10 to 12. Date nut cookies, very datey, nice chewy middle, absolutely phenomenal. So I would give these each 2 thumbs up. I hope you'll give them a try. So I had all these ambitions that I was going to do so many recipes. However, I realized, my goodness, this is going to be way too long of a video if I do that. So in the interest of time, I decided I would share these 2 cookie recipes, and then on another video, I will share some candy making. So get ready for Christmas, guys. Get all those goodies baked. Drop me a comment below. What are you making this year for your Christmas treats? As always, be well, be healthy, be blessed, and I will see you all very soon. Take care.